What's up, YouTube? Bay Area Baller back again. I got my boy Johnny with me. Today, we're going to be talking all things 49ers. Johnny, the 49ers are on a 6-game win streak. I'm glad to get you on. First off, I got to ask you, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. The Niners are the most interesting team in the NFL. They're on 6-game winning streak. Definitely not boring times around the Bay Area. Even the win streak, I gotta admit, was maybe a little boring. Maybe a little. No, I'm just kidding. But no, overall, it's been good, man. Just living a good life, enjoying the good football.
Love it. And speaking of good football, you know who's been playing some good football? Is this new rookie quarterback, Brock Purdy. And I got to ask you, how good is Brock Purdy?
Okay, so this is going to be an unpopular answer, but the truth is, no one knows. We don't know how good he is yet, and that should be a fine answer, right? Watch y'all 22 from basically his 2 full games, and has he played well? Absolutely, I'm not denying that at all. But the truth is, we don't know how good he is yet. We've only seen him in 2 games where he's had the lead for pretty much the entire time. There's so much more to playing quarterback than what we want to give people credit for. And these are the things that we talked about when earlier in the season we were talking about Trey Lance. They need time. You need 17 games at least to have an understanding of what these guys are. The one thing I will say about Brock Purdy is short area quickness is phenomenal. I guess there was a stat going around that I guess he was from all the quarterbacks in the last like 10 years since they've measured the 10-yard like speed at the combine. Brock Purdy is in the 95th percentile of speed, and it shows up in the field. That's number one.
In terms of like quarterback position,
in terms of the quarterback, 95th percentile.
Hey, that's big time. Yards. And that's in that 10-yard split is what they call it, right? That 10-yard split. Wow. Yep. I did not know that. That's big time. You see it.
Yeah. It shows in the games. I mean,
like that scramble. He scrambled for that touchdown, right? And no one's open. There was a crease. He fit right through it, accelerated through the hole, got into the end zone. It was only 2 or 3 yards. Yeah. But the fact that he saw the hole and as quick as he hit it was impressive.
I think his best play showing his mobility was that quick throw to Debo when he was hot off the edge. You saw him kind of step around really quick, but be in the position to throw and get the ball out quickly. And he
was that what he made a D lineman miss?
Yeah,
he made a guy miss.
Yeah, he didn't do the spin move like he did on a couple other plays and stuff, but he kind of stepped up and kind of evaded a bit, just enough to get the ball off on time. I thought that was a really good showing of like, hey, this guy can move, especially in the short areas, which is so important at the quarterback position. I also think he's got a really good understanding of the offense, just as strong as Jimmy being 6 years in the league. I feel like he knows where to go with the ball always. That's I think the biggest thing about Purdy that I'm really impressed about. Right, he's playing in a style that's like a 6-year veteran in the league. He has comfort in the offense, which is something that I think we can all agree that Trey Lance has never had any comfort. Maybe a little bit in the second half against Houston, but not to this degree. It's been impressive, but the truth is we don't know how good he is yet. And that should be the fun, right? We're going to learn. And that's why the season's getting more interesting and more exciting, right? Because you have a really good team and a young quarterback who's showing a lot of really strong skills. But the truth is, though, anyone who's telling you they're going to win the Super Bowl or he's a bust, it's the same thing I say to the people with Trey Lance who are too high or too low on him. You got to give him some time. You got to give him a chance. But I think he gives the 49ers a chance to win. That's all you can ask for.
Absolutely. And when we're talking Brock Purdy, when you were alluding to his evasiveness and how quick he is. One thing I like, Johnny, is the way he recognizes how many rushers are coming at him, because there were several times where the Bucs only rushed 3 guys, and they dropped, 7, 8 guys back into coverage, and Purdy was able to recognize that. And when you're only rushing 3, right, the quarterback has more time to look downfield. He didn't look for the quick dump off because rushing 3, the O-line should hold up. But when the defense sends 6 or 7, Purdy's also recognizing that. And
Mhm.
I know we're going to talk about some free rushers later, but
Yeah,
I thought
there's been a lot of them.
yeah, there's too many, and
Yeah.
we'll talk that when we touch on the offensive line. But Purdy, essentially, what I'm getting at, Johnny, is his blitz recognition and his feel for the pocket. His pocket movement has been really impressive to me.
Oh, there's no question. I mean, he's the last 2 weeks he's gone against two of the best blitzing defenses in the NFL, and he's been sacked only a few times, if at all. And he's done a good job throwing the ball away when it's not been there. He's also done a good job, hitting a check down and keeping the offense in motion, keeping it rolling. So there's a lot of, I mean, between the ears, he's playing like he's in his sixth season in the league. Like that's it. That's I think the most impressive thing, and that's allowing him to be very successful, right? There's other things as well, like he's still throwing the ball to Kittle, Ayuk, Debo before until the
That
injury,
helps.
and
That
and
helps.
then Christian McCaffrey, who I think he had 150 yards in 3 quarters.
Yeah.
That definitely helps. And does the same sort of things I would say when people tell me, "What do you think Jimmy's good?" Well, that's the reason why Jimmy's good. That's the reason why Brock's good. There's nothing wrong with that. All right, it's just stating a fact. When you have a bunch of studs around you, get them the ball, get them on time, and get it to a place where they can make a play, and that's what they get paid to do is make big time plays.
And I'm loving the way Purdy is throwing on the run.
Mm-hmm.
He moving to his right, he's got such a natural throw in motion. For the most part, it's been accurate when he's been on the run. And I feel like that's not quite a strength of Jimmy. That's where I think Brock has a clear edge throwing
To,
on the run.
to put it mildly.
I want it to be respectful. Jimmy's hurt. I don't want to bag on him
It's true.
at this point in time. But no, I love the way Brock throws on the run. Trey also throws on the run well, in my opinion.
The difference, I think, between Purdy and Trey, and something that I think Trey can learn from Purdy, is when you run, how to put yourself in a position to still throw the ball. I think if you go back to the Chicago game, one of the big things I picked apart when we talked about that game back in, feels like 3 years ago, but it's only been a few months, was that Trey was doing that shoulder dip thing and to evade the rush and then trying to get
Yeah.
all the way back to throw, right? Well, you see Purdy, he doesn't turn his shoulders, he dips and he moves his knees, he changes his arm angle, and he has a few different throws in him. So, it's all those pieces. Like Purdy has poise of a veteran quarterback, which at 23 years old, that those sort of traits are rare, and that's why the 49ers feel like, hey, we're fine, we can still win with this guy because he's not going to be too high, he's not going to be too low, he's going to command the huddle, going to keep us on schedule, and that's going to give us a chance because we have a bunch of studs out here. It's the little things like that.
Absolutely. And while we're talking Brock, I was busy today. I know Kyle spoke, I think D'Amico spoke, but what's the outlook on Purdy? Are we expecting him to play? What's the word
I
on
think he's
Thursday?
playing. I would be genuinely shocked if he didn't play. He spoke today and kind of basically said that he wants to step up to this the expectation of playing on a short week, playing a little injured. The dude's tough as nails too. There's a lot to like about Brock Purdy. I think that's one thing that came through in the preseason where I understood right away why Kyle kept him and didn't put him on the practice squad. There was a reason for that. They're like, hey, this guy's got something here. It's not to say he's Tom Brady. I don't want to compare that, but a lot of people don't remember Tom Brady's rookie year. The Patriots kept 4 quarterbacks on the roster, which now, I mean, back then you had 3 usually, but they kept 4. Tom Brady was the 4th quarterback. And it's something that I think the team, they picked it pretty quick, is that this guy can execute and play good football, and we don't want to give a chance for someone else to claim him. So it's the little things I think that are helping Brock out. Now, there are some little red flags in his game. I don't think his arm is as strong as is shown. Now, granted, I think maybe the oblique injury had something to do with some of the throws. I kind of got a
Ooh.
kick. I got a kick out of the there were some wobbly throws, but no one seemed to mention that. Okay. All right. Just to be objective, we should all be objective. I'm not saying he's playing bad, but another quarterback around here had a couple wobbly throws, and it was a
We
national
couldn't hear
story.
the end of it.
It was a
Yeah.
national story, but Brock, Mr. Relevant, it's the next King Arthur Tom Brady story. But no, it's
That's a good point because like the ball to Ayuk was underthrown, right? It still
severely.
worked out. It was still a completion. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
really underthrown. And I
he
hadn't thought of that. Maybe the oblique did affect him. I don't know.
maybe it's possible. But yeah, but in the Miami game too, he didn't really push the ball down the field that game as much. He made a couple nice throws down the field over the middle, especially that one to Kittle when he was hot on the third down there. That kind of was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
okay, we got something here. Um, but the one thing about Brock Purdy, I think that I really like is the fact he builds off his good plays, right? He does, and this is one thing that Trey, because of his inexperience, hasn't done yet, where he has a good play, but then he has another good play. He doesn't have a good play and a bad play and a good play and a bad play. The herky jerkiness of his game isn't there. And Brock's is going to be a professional quarterback in the NFL. How good he is, that is a completely different question, and it's something we're not going to know for a long time. But if he has Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey for a few years, his career should get off to a pretty good start if he's a starting quarterback moving forward.
Yeah, I like that.
Mhm.
And how good is Brock Purdy? I think he's good. I know obviously we don't know the exact extent. You got the right answer, but so far I'm just going off from what I've seen. I think he's been good. He's got a bit of a gunslinger mentality, Johnny, where he tries to fit the ball in some tight windows.
Mhm.
Um,
He reminds me a lot of Tony Romo. Like there are shocking similarities in their game. Like especially young Tony Romo when he was a lot more mobile before the knees and the back started flaring up and stuff. But his improvising skills. There we go. I think that was still wrong. It's
Improvisational. I got your
improvisation.
back.
That's
I
the
got your
one.
back.
That's the one.
Yeah.
That number one, number two, accuracy. Being able to put the ball where the guy can make a play on it.
Yeah.
I think it's really good, and it's very similar to Romo. Romo maybe had a better arm. I think Purdy's actually a better athlete than Romo was, from what I remember. But I do remember young Tony Romo running around behind the
No,
line of scrimmage and making
Romo,
plays.
yeah, Romo is pretty athletic.
But yeah, I think
I think there's somewhat comparable. I
yeah.
like your comparison there.
Well, yeah, I'm also tired of people comparing him to Joe Montana. It's like, guys, hold on. No, guys, we can remember when Cody Pickett won a game for us, and he was a 7th round pick too. Like, just pump the brakes, and we got to relax a little bit, right? And if you're saying, "Oh, I'm just being biased" or whatever, I would be saying the same thing if this was Trey Lance. Everyone just pump the brakes, give the kid a chance to get his feet under him, really get deeper in the offense, and let's see exactly what happens. Because I think the one thing that we did learn is that the last 2 weeks they've just been blitzing the hell out of him. Right, any
Yeah, they
third
have.
down and long, it's always been a zero coverage or a cover one man with a single high safety, and coverage has been a little simple. I think going into this next game against Seattle, I think Seattle isn't going to pressure him, and then they're going to drop. And I'm curious to see when he's not being pressured so much. What does he look like? Is he going to try and fit the ball into the wrong window at a time? These are smart defensive coordinators. Pete Carroll, for all of his issues and all of his, gripes we have against him, he's still a really good defensive coach. So they're going to try and put him in awkward situations. But yeah, I'm excited to see it though. I think that's the most important thing. Is I feel like this fan base is a lot more re-energized. I think we're a little tired about the Jimmy Garoppolo story because I think we all know where it was going to end. It probably in Minnesota or Philly with an L. I honestly believe that. I think a lot of people believe that, but Purdy gives them a chance that gives them something that Jimmy didn't have: the mobility and the ability to pull the trigger when it's open. That throw to McCaffrey was a dime. I'm not gonna say that ball was thrown really well. The Ayuk ball, not so much, but it worked out. He got it out there on time and just enough on it to get a touchdown. But the McCaffrey ball was really good. I mean, that was really nice. He was in zero coverage. McCaffrey made a great move on the inside, the safety bit, and he just took him over the top. So I like the fact if it's open, he's going to throw it.
Absolutely. And I think you killed it right there with that analysis of Brock Purdy. The last thing I'll say before we move on to the next topic is really what I'm most impressed by Brock Purdy is the pocket awareness. his
Yeah.
ability to move within the pocket. There's bodies all around him, but hey, you step left, you escape right, he'll get out of the hole, throw on the run. That's what I think's been most impressive with Brock Purdy. But why don't we get to the next topic? We're staying on the offensive side of the ball. We talked Brock, but what players need to be acknowledged for their stellar play? I mean, we're on a 6-game win streak, Johnny.
I mean, right now it's all of them, right? The last 2 games, the 49ers put up over 30 points. They were dominating on offense at times, really good at other times, where even where they didn't score, they were moving the ball. There weren't the 3-and-outs that we were seeing, even that were happening on the win streak, right? The one thing I will say, going back to really the Rams game, right? That was sort of the game where the offense started to kind of get in tune, and it made sense, right? Jimmy had been playing a bit. He'd been in the offense longer, and they owned the Rams, so got some confidence rolling. But I think the one thing is the offensive line in the run game has been phenomenal. Like, they have done a really good job, and I think part of that too is also Christian McCaffrey, and I'll talk about him ad nauseum because he's the MVP of the team right now. The offensive MVP. I don't want to say MVP of the team because there's about 5 guys on defense who could maybe have that honor. But what McCaffrey gives this team in the run game, he just makes everyone's lives and jobs so much easier. And this last week was the first time I saw the 49ers consistently run the outside zone since they had Raheem Mostert. I mean, that was the one thing. He was constant outside zone, and then McCaffrey hitting one cut, hammering it, and run. I know on the touchdown, on one of his touchdown runs, it was an inside gap zone from the pistol, kind of froze the safeties with the zone read fake. There was no read there. They were going to give the ball regardless, but Brock kind of gave the fake. McCaffrey.
With the pulling guards. That had the pulling guards.
Well, I think it was a pulling tight end. I think it was Kittle pulling underneath on that back motion.
Okay. Yeah.
And just McCaffrey just being faster and cooler than everybody else. But I will say the offensive line, the run game has really exercised a lot of demons. And I really like the fact the one thing they have done is this Burford Brunskill rotation. Burford was not playing strong at the end of games, but he was really having good starts. And I think this rotation sort of helped him get again. He's a rookie coming from the University of Texas at San Antonio. You don't want to put too much on him. I think like I said from day one when they drafted him, I think he's a player, and he's shown that, but he's not perfect yet. But a lot of props.
I want to stay on those two. Johnny, because recently I looked up, PFF grades, take it for what it's worth, but they're higher on Daniel Brunskill and Brunskill's play. They graded him, I want to say it's like a 66 thus far. They got Spencer Burford down like by 49 or 50. Yeah. And I wanted to ask you, is that matching up with the tape that you're seeing? Because I know you watch, I'm watching the film, but I know you like to hone in on that O-line.
Yeah, well, because Burford's a guy he does a lot of things well, kind of like Trey Lance a little bit. You have a lot of good plays, but then he'll sprinkle in the bad plays, right? But Brunskill is definitely more consistent. And Burford is better in pass protection. I think that's by a mile. I think in the run game, Burford has a tendency to make some mistakes, but I don't think they're all his fault because, for what Jake Brendel's done this year, I think he's been solid. But he also makes a lot of mistakes. He gets bullied a bit up front, and I think that causes a lot of problems in pass protection because he needs a lot of help. He's not quite strong enough to anchor into really play at the level of some of the other guys. And I think that's caused some problems for Burford. There's been some communication errors back and forth too. You'll see it. I've seen it a few times on the offensive line side of communication errors in the run and pass game. So, they've been playing, but they've been doing a solid job. I don't want to say that. I don't think Burford's a 49. I think that's disingenuous. He's much better player than that. PFF.
Yeah, I agree. When I saw that, I was like, man, that seems low. 49 means like you suck, dude. But no, bro, Burford's been playing like pretty good. You see him below an assignment occasionally. I remember one time he was just peeking inside, and then he missed the snap, and then the guy blew right past him. Like, that's not a good look. But
it's the rookie
mistake.
It's the rookie woes you go with. But there's a reason why the 49ers are playing him. This is a playoff team. He wouldn't be playing unless they knew he's a good football player. They recognize that. They don't want to just completely bench him. They want him to get more experience and to get better. So for next season, he's either starting right guard or maybe even the starting right tackle. He played right tackle as junior year, left tackle as senior year in college. I think he could be a right tackle. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know if he has the foot speed. I thought he maybe did, but they want to get him more playing time, get him more comfortable, get him more acclimated to the NFL speed, and I think he's done a fairly solid job. I think him and Brunskill. But that's the funny thing is that we're talking about Brunskill, we're talking about Brendel, but there's not the worst offensive lineman who's a starter, and by a mile, it's Mike McGlinchey. It's there was a 3-game stretch during the win streak where it was just constant blown assignment, blown assignment, blown assignment, mental error, physical error. I don't for a team that's as good as the 49ers are, I've never seen an offensive lineman consistently on his back as much as Mike McGlinchey.
No.
It
You're right.
it's constant. It's really bad, and he's he kind of. I understand during COVID it was a very hard time for a lot of people, and he kind of played the victim card. But it's been 5 years, man. It's been 5 years, and your play strength isn't there. So I
You
root
get a
for the
big,
guy.
powerful guy. If you got a powerful D lineman, you put him over McGlinchey, and there's gonna. I mean, Mike, he's gonna hold up on occasion. He'll
Yeah,
hold up,
but
but in the grand scheme of things, when the defense knows you're passing the ball on third down and they're pinning their ears back, that's where Mike tends to struggle.
Well, the other thing too is lately it's been blown assignments. A lot of the free runners are safeties and corners. The teams have figured out if you line someone up on Mike McGlinchey and just grab him with an end or a tackle and just run a safety or a corner or a linebacker around the outside, they will come up free. That's been happening a lot. It's happened a lot the last 2 weeks in particular. Not surprising, two really good blitzing coaches figured that out. Trent had one, but it was more of a they shift the offensive line,
That was
right?
against the Dolphins. That was that the
No,
play Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt on?
well
Because the
that
play
well
Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt on, there was a free rusher coming off Trent's side. And here was the thing, Johnny, and we'll get to Sentinel's comment in a second. But against the Dolphins, the play Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt on, they were showing blitz. They were showing 6 or 7 at the line, but they dropped them back. They dropped. Yep. They were only rushing 4. So the 49ers have 5 offensive linemen. We should have been able to pick up that 4-man rush,
right.
But there was some confusion. Trent didn't pick up the furthest outside guy, and
well,
I don't know. Is that on Brendel?
No. I mean, it could, when you have 7 guys walked up, it is a little bit of a guessing game when if you're bringing one side versus the other side. That's an unconventional front. It's more there's a reason why quarterbacks call the protections. They're able to see the secondary a little better, so they're able to see maybe the safety shaded down here. So if this,
but not in our offense, right?
Not in our offense.
That's not in our. Typically, it's the center in most schemes, but we have the center doing it.
Well, yeah, the center call. Well, the center will set the protection, but the quarterback at the end of the day can override it and flip it all. Right? That's usually how it goes. Another factor to this too, is that the 49ers don't block with the running backs lately. That's the other factor is that because they have Christian McCaffrey, they're going five wide, and they're throwing the ball at the running backs, and teams are now realizing, okay, they're not going to keep McCaffrey in the backfield on third down, so let's just run a 6 guy somewhere or a guy off the edge. If you get past the offensive line, the quarterback has to make a quick decision. So it's a little bit of the cause and the effect of the Christian McCaffrey factor. I think to counteract that, you might see Kyle Juszczyk in a little bit more in the backfield on third down and McCaffrey in the slot now that Debo's out. But that is a unintended consequence of Christian McCaffrey. But also it comes down to the last 2 weeks. You played 2 of the best blitzing teams in the league. They were going to bring the heat, bring exotic looks at Jimmy or Brock, and there's been a lot of free runners in particular. A lot of them would come from Mike McGlinchey as well. And on the play where Jimmy got hurt, you're right. Trent slid right, and then it came left. But the problem I have with that play is McGlinchey got blown up on the other edge. And then he came off right into his face, and that's the guy who landed on Jimmy's foot and broke his ankle. McGlinchey's one where I don't get it. He must be like the best dude in the world. Like I don't get that.
We're gonna find out just how much John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan like McGlinchey because he's due for a new contract. So we're really gonna find out how much they like this guy because if they extend him, especially Johnny. If they pay him like a premium right tackle or anything near that. Like
It'll
I'm
be
gonna be
it'll
frustrated.
be it'll be a roster changing move because then they're going to be wasting money on a position where they could maybe go cheaper and get the same exact output and then possibly lose other people. Like say Emmanuel Mosley. You could lose Jimmy Ward. So I don't think the 49ers are going to do that. The 49ers have shown the ability to be their best friend and then, okay, bye. They've done
Yeah,
that. It's not like
yeah.
the 49ers haven't done that. The one thing I will say, though, it is right tackle. So it's a little harder to sneak in an upgrade, but it's also, there's not a whole lot of really good right tackles in the league. There was one available in free agency, and he was traded. It was Leroy Collins, and he's not even
Real
active.
quick. We're talking a lot of McGlinchey, probably too much, but
Yeah,
briefly, Brendel and Banks. We know Trent's being his all pro self, but left guard center combination, what are you seeing there?
Banks is phenomenal. The 49ers got a player with Aaron Banks. I love this game. There's I mean, what he gives them and the running to the left, he gives them power to match Trent Williams too. And you saw that on Sunday in particular. They ran a lot of outside zone to the left side and watching Banks and um, Williams maul people up front and just get so much movement and allowing that
That's what I
massive
was
cutback
waiting
lane.
for. I was
Yeah.
waiting for that for this game, Johnny,
Mm-hmm.
from McCaffrey,
Yep.
because I felt like there was more to the running game that he could bring, right?
Yep.
And finally on Sunday it came to fruition. And you even heard Forrester before that game. Forrester at the podium said, "Hey, McCaffrey after the Miami Dolphins game, he's like, McCaffrey's like, I left some meat on the bone. There were some
Mm-hmm.
runs. I could have did some things differently. I left some stuff out there. Like he was beating himself up, and Forrester just wanted to like congratulate him. Like they got to win. McCaffrey made some plays, and finally it came out, and CMC averaged over 8 yards a clip against the Bucs. He was absolutely dominant.
Yeah. I mean, he was by far the best player on the field. Even though the defense having the day did, McCaffrey was the best player on the field on the last Sunday.
Yeah,
There's no question about it. Tristan McCaffrey might get John Lynch the executive of the year. Him and Brock Purdy. Um, all things considered. But McCaffrey gives them again something they haven't had since Raheem Mostert, the ability to run outside zone. They haven't really been able to do that. Even with Elijah Mitchell. Elijah Mitchell was a lot more between the tackles, inside zones with, a follow through fullback of Juszczyk or even Kittle coming through the lane and kicking someone out. But the outside zone is giving this team so much more of that east-west movement on a defense to really open up the vertical passing game. I really love McCaffrey's been unreal. I just got to keep him healthy. Because also the other back, Jordan Mason. I really like what Jordan
there it
Mason's been
is.
doing too.
That dude between the tackles
Mm-hmm.
looks unstoppable at times. He just runs so hard. What I love about Mason, he's so decisive. He
Mm-hmm.
gets the rock, he hits the hole, and he hits it hard.
Yep. And then he punishes and finishes the runs.
Yes.
I think the 49ers maybe have a better tandem than what they did in 2019 when they won the Super Bowl. I mean, obviously McCaffrey's better than Tevin Coleman and Mostert, but the difference that year was that Shanahan really used Coleman and Mostert in tandem for the back end of the season when they were, as their schedule
Yeah.
picked up and then through
They
the
would start
playoffs.
Coleman every game. It's like, why?
Well, I mean, Coleman had 130 yards in the NFC divisional round against the Vikings. Like he had a really good game that day. It was like 4.5 yards carry, but Coleman had a really good day that day. And then Mostert had some, a couple of runs here and there. And then obviously the NFC Championship game, Tevin Coleman got hurt, and then Mostert just went beast mode. But no, I think this tandem could be really special because I think it gives the 49ers the ability to bleed the clock, which is something they have not had in maybe 2 years. They've really struggled when they've been having leads and not moving the ball and not getting first downs. But Jordan Mason, 5 yards a carry the last couple of weeks,
Yeah.
he brings power late in games when guys are tired. I'd like
I
to
think
see
he
him.
deserves more carries.
I think he
Were
does.
you about to say that?
I think he does too. No, I think between the touch count between McCaffrey and Mason, I think it should be 25 to 15. Get them because McCaffrey, you have to consider the receiving game as well. But get him more involved. Get Juice. I mean, it's been nice having Juice a little bit involved in the passing game too.
Mhm.
The last 2 weeks, he had a touchdown, and then he had a couple nice catches like for first downs this past week. So, the ability of McCaffrey and Mason to be such good runners is opening up everything else in the passing game for everybody else. It's been really nice, and it's really unfortunate Debo got hurt because I think Debo was primed for a real nice stretch over these next 4 weeks. Thankfully, he's coming back. Hopefully for the playoffs. But I really
Stay
like
on
what they're
that.
doing.
Stay on that because who do you think's going to fill in for nobody's Debo,
Right.
but I mean, let me start it because I think it's going to be Ray McLeod. I think Ray McLeod's going to fill in. He's not Debo, but he can do some yards after the catch stuff. I
Mm-hmm.
think Ray can some. It's not going to be as dying. There's only one Debo,
He's
but
got to hang on to the ball though.
he's got to hang on to the ball,
Got to
which I
hang on to
feel
the ball.
like has he let one loose? I know we've
The,
recovered a couple balls that he's
nah,
let
he
go,
had that
but
big
it's been
drop.
a while.
He had that drop against the Falcons, and they haven't really thrown the ball since. That was what it was. He got that drop on that deep ball from Jimmy that kind of hung
Yeah,
up there.
yeah.
It happens. But Kyle, that's how Kyle is, man. You get your shot. If you blow it, then you're not getting the ball for a while. He's been phenomenal in the return game, though. He's been really, really. He's playing actually at a really high level. But yeah, I think for the 49ers in the passing game, I think Ayuk's finally going to get number one receiver targets, which is something he's never gotten since his first year in the league when they had
Yeah,
no choice.
yeah.
Kyle Shanahan had admitted that we didn't have anybody else, so we just fed Ayuk. I think Kittle obviously he's been getting the ball a bit more lately, which is nice. It doesn't hurt on third down to give the ball to the second best tight end in the NFL. Really
Yeah.
doesn't, not a problem there. And then obviously Jawan Jennings is going to have some role to play. You're going to see Ray more, and you're going to also see Danny Gray. They started playing him last week, and he was in there before Debo got hurt.
I
They had
want
him
to
in,
see more Danny Gray.
yeah.
Danny Gray's not just this deep threat. Like if you watch him at SMU, they also threw him a bunch of bubble screens, a bunch of quick stuff because he is good after the catch. He
Yeah.
can catch it and get upfield in a hurry.
Yeah, he was like a true receiver. Like he's not like I think that was the one thing about his evaluation that was interesting was that he's not just a burner. He's a receiver who's just really fast. And like I think people forget that he's also 6 foot, 190 pounds. Like he's not a small guy. So I think he's going to get some actual playing time over the next few weeks because he should be the fourth receiver. So in those three receiver sets when they motion around and stuff, he'll get some run there. So I'm excited to see what he'll do because if he's open, Brock will pull the trigger.
Love it. Let's say what's up to the chat. Sentinel says, yeah, let's get
What's
Juan
up,
more
guys?
involved. Yeah,
Mhm.
let's get you Juan. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, the dream.
doesn't hurt at all. Jawan Jennings is really good at his role.
Oh, yeah, that big slot roll. I mean, third down. How many times have we seen Jawan Jennings just come up clutch on third down? He can separate against man. He
Mhm.
also finds the soft spot in zone. And
Mhm.
I think
I'm really
that's
bummed. I think if Trey Lance hadn't got hurt, I think he'd be having a huge season. Just because Trey likes that, we saw it in the first game too. They threw the slot fade to Jawan, and Trey hit up with a beautiful ball in stride. I think he would have been really more involved in the offense, just because they had the deep shot with his height would have been in there as well.
yeah. Shout out to Emiliano. Thanks for stopping by. Maybe more jet sweeps with Ray and Danny. Yes, I want to see Danny get some jet sweeps and Ray.
There was a couple. They had a couple last week with Ray. They were trying it out last week a little bit during garbage time. So we'll see. I don't think the 49ers need a lot of jet sweeps this week. To be honest, to beat Seattle, I think they can just come up there with McCaffrey, Jordan Mason, pound the rock, play action off of them, and get some easy touchdowns. And this defense is unreal right now. So just don't do anything too crazy. Keep it simple for Brock and get out of there with a win and a division title.
What's up, Bryant? Let's get to the next topic, Johnny, and that's going to be the defense. So the defense has been sensational. What are you seeing on that side of the ball, and who are some standouts that you want to call out?
Well, the last 2 weeks, Eric Armstead. I know he gets a lot of crap. Sometimes it's deserved, but I think people need to understand that defensive tackles don't necessarily get paid to have a huge stat sheet. DeForest Buckner may have had a big stat sheet. That's because he was a physically dominating freak of nature. Um, Armstead is too, and Armstead when he's rolling, he's one of the most terrific defensive tackles in the league. The last 2 weeks, part of the reason why Nick Bosa had 3 sacks against Miami was Armstead on a one play took out 3 offensive linemen. It was
Wow.
one of the most impressive things I'd ever seen. I had not seen. I remember Buckner doing it a couple times, but it wasn't. It was impressive.
Wow.
He had a really good game against Miami, and this past week he other than Bosa, I think he actually had more pressures than Bosa this last week. I mean, there was a lot of times on third down where they didn't get the sack because Brady found ways to get the ball out of his hand, even though he should have been sacked probably twice.
Yeah,
But
no
actually,
sacks,
should have
but
been
it was
tackled like
like he
5
was
times. Yeah.
harassed all night. There was
Mm-hmm.
bodies around, a defensive linemen are all over Brady, but it didn't result in a sack. I mean, there
Yeah.
was one Bosa almost had him, but Brady got the ball out like an inch before his knee hit the ground.
How that was not intentional grounding is beyond me.
Yeah.
How they said that Fournette was in the area, but if you look back, Fournette's on his ass because he missed the block. He was blocking. He was not a receiver, and Brady just threw it forward, and Fournette just happened to be there. So I that one I don't understand. But you're right. Bosa should have had a sack there. They should have called it grounding and given Bosa the sack. But yeah, Armstead had about 4 or 5 pressures on third down that were really impressive. I thought he had a hell of a game on Sunday. Jimmy
Mm.
Ward and the slot, I think the beginning it was a bit of a learning curve coming off the bench and be like, dude, I don't. He obviously doesn't want to play the slot, and that might be why he's gone next year. We'll see what ends up happening. But the last 2 weeks in the slot, he's been terrific. I mean, he's been really, really good. He held Chris Godwin to 5 catches, 58 yards, and kind of harassed him and pestered him. I think Godwin had 2 drops too. One was a touchdown, and that was Alshair who messed up the touchdown, and then a couple on third down where Jimmy was right in his face, right in his grill. So I think he's really getting into that role. He had a pick against Miami. Really like what Jimmy Ward's been doing over the win streak. He's been one of the best players on defense. Obviously, the linebackers, all 3 of them. I know Alshair doesn't play a lot, but he's still nasty when he plays. You throw
Grab
out
Brady by the throat.
yeah, that was a bit of a shocker. I was at the game, so I didn't see that live, but I saw the picture. I was like, oh damn, that's
Yeah.
you don't do that to Tom Brady. That's usually a call. But no, I mean Dre Greenlaw is maybe the best linebacker in football right now. I mean, he's been phenomenal. Fred Warner, I mean, he's maybe not making as many stat sheet plays, but his coverage has been phenomenal. He almost had 2 interceptions on Sunday. One play, Brady kind of scudded the ball because I think he felt like Warner was going to come underneath it and pick it off. He's the
Brady's
best
been doing
coverage
a
line.
lot of that. Brady's been
Yeah,
doing a lot of that, just throwing the balls into the ground because nothing's there.
the Bucs aren't getting a whole lot of separation right now. And
No,
yeah,
their offense looks so vanilla. Like, I don't know what Bruce Arians has gone. Byron Leftwich. Well, I mean, it's the O line is what it
mhm.
is, Johnny. Their O line.
they
Brady doesn't
had yeah
trust it,
they had
and
the
so
right game plan.
they got a lot of quick game stuff. They're
Well,
throwing a bunch of stuff.
they have to. They don't have a deep threat. I mean, Mike Evans is a little slower. Godwin's still coming off the ACL, and Julio is not the deep threat they wanted it to be. But I think the bigger problem was in the game on Sunday, if they got way off script right off the bat because they were down, you blink and it was 21-0. When that happens and you got to start throwing the ball, you got to start doing things you didn't really want to do because they were running the ball well against the 49ers. But then they start throwing the ball. Brady threw 2 picks. One of them was a hell of a play by Greenlaw. The other one was just an overthrow, and Gibson almost housed
Yeah.
it. But
I
yeah,
want to talk about the 3 safeties because actually, I know we haven't talked in a while, Johnny, but I had
Mhm.
been a little bit critical. Like, that was the one thing that I was kind of questioning D'Amico on. The defense has been sensational,
Mhm.
but the 3 safety look was the one thing where I was like, I kind of want to get Womack out there. And I know Womack, he's not going to be playing Thursday night. He's concussed. He's
Yeah.
already been ruled out. So it's not going to happen. But do you feel like the 3 safety look, like, here's what I'm worried about. You play the Vikings, let's say, in the playoffs, and they got Justin Jefferson in the slot, and you're just going to roll with Jimmy Ward. Just, I mean, you're going to,
I
I don't know. I
don't
feel like they should kind of have someone ready to step in, maybe groom them to take over. Because Gibson, he had a pick. You mentioned it. Gibson's been playing good, but I've had thoughts of moving Jimmy Ward back to free safety and then Womack coming in the nickel, and tell me why I'm crazy.
I don't think it's crazy at all. I think that's very realistic. That could be the defensive backfield next year. I think that's very realistic goal. The thing right now is just the 49ers believe, and I think this is the right call, that their best 11 guys on the field at nickel are with Gibson, Ward, and Hufanga on the field. And
Yeah.
I think that's correct. Because
Well, that shuts down the run, Johnny.
Yeah.
Because you're putting Jimmy Ward to run gap and run fill.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why the 49ers defense is
but
the
it gives you some
rushing defense in the league.
Right. It also gives you some blitz versatility too. I haven't really been doing it, but there was a couple times on Sunday where Jimmy he does the C gap blitz. He on the forced fumble that happened. He did one of those C gap blitz during garbage time. So it gives them a little bit extra. It gives them a little bit more of a different look. The things that Jimmy Ward can do because he's such a versatile player. Womack, yeah, he'll be definitely starting next year. I think he'll be the starting slot. I don't think there's much of a debate about that, unless they sign someone, which I don't see them doing. But yeah, they're just right now. I think they've really believed that that's their best 11, and I think they're right. I think the one thing about the 49ers coaching staff this year is they've been pretty spot on with a lot of the things of their evaluation of their roster, and that's really shown over the last 6 weeks. Regardless of how critical we can be as fans at times, I think they really understand the players they have, what they were lacking. That's why they got Christian McCaffrey. That's why they traded Jeff Wilson. Unfortunately, Elijah Mitchell got hurt and didn't exactly, it's unfortunate. That was going to be the 1-2 punch. It was going to be Mitchell and McCaffrey. And you saw it against Arizona, how good that looked. It was damn near unstoppable. And then they got Debo involved later, and that was something pretty sweet. But now Jordan Mason's showing the ability to do that role. And they fed him up quite a bit and not give Ty Davis-Price any run, which is, Ty Davis-Price, 3rd-round pick that everyone kind of scratched their head at draft day. But Mason's better. Mason's getting the ball. So, we could talk about them maybe not drafting perfectly, and that's totally fair. But when it comes down to evaluating who's there and who the best players are, I think they've done a really good job of that, and they've really handled some of those. The season could have been a disaster after week 2. I mean, it could have been an absolute disaster. Look at the Rams. A couple injuries, injury at quarterback, season could be over. And this team is 9-4 with a chance to clinch the division week 14. They're one of the few teams in that situation. So,
hey, and yeah, before we touch on this 49ers Seahawks preview, we're still talking defense. Any other players you wanted to call out and shout out? Hufanga, has he kind of cooled off the last few weeks, or what are you seeing from Huff? We know he's aggressive, right? He likes to he's a playmaker as a DB, so he's jumping routes. We saw him get Tyreek Hill hit the big post over the top. It looked like Charvarius Ward was expecting some kind of inside help, but like we said, Hufanga's a playmaker. He's trying to jump a route underneath and get an interception that way.
Yeah.
But what are you seeing from Huff the last couple of weeks? The tackle numbers kind of have dipped a little bit. What are you seeing from Huff?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Tackles aren't a good stat of whether a guy in the secondary is playing good or not, regardless of their safety. I don't think a lot of times stats on defense lie. Like the one year that Kerry Hyder got not 9 sacks, and then was like, give him a lot of money, keep him. I was like, okay, and no, he's not that good. Some of those sacks kind of lucked into, and he had a good role going with the 49ers. I think what his role was, especially this year, was nice. He was kind of giving them some defensive tackle help, but like it wasn't like give him $10 million. That turned out to be correct.
We let the Seahawks do that.
Exactly. We didn't do that. Yeah. The Seahawks did that. But I think when it comes, what were we talking? Oh yeah, we're talking about what we're talking about. I'm sorry, I just totally blanked.
We're talking. What are we talking, Johnny? We were talking defense. We were talking Hufanga.
Oh, Funga. He's a guy who wants to just go. He sees it and he goes. Him and Sherman were on a podcast recently. I was listening to that, and he just believes it regardless of what he sees. And what does that mean as a safety? that means you're going to make big plays, and that also means you're going to give up big plays. The play against Tyreek Hill, I think that was more of a perfect play call against the coverage. That was just Mike McDaniels just dialed it up, and that happens, guys. They're in quarters. They had a deep in over the middle. Hufanga being the safety on that side has to kind of step up and respect that. Otherwise, it's a 20-yard gain. And then you had Tyreek Hill running the post over that, and they call it kind of a fish hooky, because you either take the hook and then you throw it downtown, or you throw the hook route, right? And he took a cheese, and it happens. That's more of a really good play call against the coverage, and you're kind of SOL on that one. You learn from as a player. Next time, take the deep ball. They'll give the touchdown up. Let them have the first down, and then we'll try and make a play. Keep them on the field, right? The longer on the field, the bigger of a chance of sack, a turnover, to get points off the board. But I think overall, Hufanga has been maybe the biggest surprise of the season, just because he's been so impactful. He was by far the biggest question mark on defense coming in as a starter. I think every position was pretty solidified.
I'll say biggest surprise, because I liked how you said that, because I got my brain working, and I got to go Brock Purdy off the bat. The one that jumps out is Brock Purdy's biggest surprise. But we're talking defense. You're right. Yeah. The title does say.
I mean, coming into the season, Brock Purdy. If you told me Brock Purdy would be 2-0 as a starter this year, at the beginning of the year, I would have laughed in your face, because that means that means Trey and Jimmy got hurt. Oh, okay. That's what that would have meant. But it's it's he's gonna make mistakes. He's by far, I think a lot of during the draft time, I wanted the Niners to draft a safety. I think a lot of people did. That wasn't just me. They were like, no, we're good there, and they stuck to their guns. And he's made a lot of plays. He's made a lot of really good plays. And sometimes the secondary, you're just gonna get burned. You're not gonna be perfect every single play. You got to have the confidence, though, to keep bouncing back, and he definitely has that.
No doubt. Well, hey, we're 2 days away. It's 49ers, Seahawks. The Seahawks are coming into this game losing 3 of 4, and I was diving into some statistics right before this show, specifically rush defense, and I got it here. The 49ers have given up the fewest rushing yards in the NFL, only giving up 976 rushing yards. That's 75 yards per game. Let's go to the Seahawks, because now you got to scroll down. They are the second worst rush defense in the NFL. They've given up over 2,000. Johnny, the 49ers haven't even given up 1,000. The Seahawks have given up over 2,000 rushing yards. And they're giving up over 160 rushing yards a game.
Yeah.
So, wow. Just
that's
drastically.
Rough.
Yeah.
Yeah,
49ers got to run the rock on these dudes.
Yeah, no, Chuba Hubbard saved my fantasy team last week. Thanks, Chuba. Definitely, I think going into this game on the offense, it's a heavy dose of Christian McCaffrey early, Jordan Mason in relief at times, getting the run game going, using play action off of that, just to kind of give them a chance. Got to give Brock a better chance to have some big window throws, little things like that. I think overall, obviously that's the game plan for the 49ers every week, right? Run the ball. But I think the outside zone is going to give Seattle a lot of fits with McCaffrey. I think the 49ers tapped into something on Sunday that's going to propel them moving forward. That now they have this outside zone element to their offense. And then Mason to kind of close people out late. And then second on defense, I would say the biggest thing for them is just you gotta take Lockett and Metcalf out of the game as much as possible. It doesn't sound like Kenneth Walker is going to play. That's going to be the X factor there. I mean, the 49ers have been great stopping the run, but Kenneth Walker is
a really good football player. That was my favorite running back coming into the draft. It was him, Breece Hall, but I prefer Kenneth Walker. Ty Davis Price. when we drafted him and I looked at, I think I had the PFF draft sheet pulled up and like
He
running back,
wasn't
he
on
was like
there.
all the way down. He was like
Yeah.
at the bottom of the list. I was like, what have we done?
Yeah, no.
But yeah, you don't judge a guy off that. Then you watch the tape and
Nah,
he had a couple of huge games at LSU, and it's almost like does Shanahan just look at the best game? Because like Trey
yeah.
Sermon had these massive 300-yard rushing game. Ty Davis Price had a crazy game. But let's say what's up to Lions Mania. Thanks for stopping by. And he said, "Hey,
Hey, keep it rolling, boys. Take Seattle out. That'd be awesome if you guys made the playoffs in the line and the Seahawks didn't. That'd be
hey,
amazing. Could you
Lions
imagine
fans,
that?
they're holding out hope. They're holding out hope for a playoff berth, man. Good for you.
They got more than
Good for the.
hope. They have a realistic shot. I mean, they're
I know
what,
the
one
defense
game
has been
out?
playing better. The defense has been playing better over
Offense has
there.
been playing good. Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown had a huge week on Sunday. I mean, they
Oh,
traded TJ Hawkinson, and their offense
yeah.
has gotten better since then. So tips off to Dan Campbell, man. He's done a hell of a job in Detroit. And they actually, they're building up very similar to the 49ers. They have Hutchinson, they have their kind of Nick Bosa, they have some
hmm
really good edge pressure. Their secondaries played a lot better. Linebackers are fast. They're not nearly as good as San Francisco's, but they're building a defense very in the same vein of the 49ers. And you're starting to see that kind of across the league as, when D'Amico becomes a head coach, you'll see another 49ers
They got a
team do
lot of
that.
work to do before they're the 49ers.
No, but
But
they're building something. I said building to something, not necessarily. They're
okay,
not quite
okay,
there yet.
okay. Yeah.
But
I know.
eh,
I
they
got
did
you.
they
I got
did they did give one of the best offenses in the NFL some serious fits on Sunday,
you.
being Minnesota. So
Mm.
gotta give some props where it is. Um, but no, getting back to the Niners on defense, you
Yeah.
know, Bosa, do your job. Just do your job. I really just believe the 49ers do their job. It's going to look very similar to what it looked like week 2, whereas Geno Smith just can't really do much. The difference, obviously, being in Seattle, that's going to be a packed house. Seahawks are. This is basically a game that I think can either put a nail in their coffin or give them some air and can get them back into it. I firmly believe if the Seahawks lose this game, they will miss the playoffs, regardless of what happens the rest of the
Mm.
next 3 weeks. Just because, from what it sounds like from the beat around there, is that it's not exactly looking all that promising. It sounds like it's a pretty down locker room, and for the 49ers, just come in, do your job, and that's going to be their job the rest of the season. Just come these next 4 games. They're significantly more talented than any other team they play. The Commanders, the Raiders, then the Cardinals, the Kyler Murray-less Cardinals too. And they're
Mm.
significantly more talented. It's just coming in, doing your job, clinching that division as soon as possible, so you don't have to rush Debo back. You don't have to worry about playoff seeding because you're automatically a 3 seed because you took care of business against the Bucs and you beat the Panthers too. And those are the 2 teams who could win the South and maybe. Well, the Bucs can get to 10-7. You can get to 10-7, then you'd be tied. Panthers, I think the best record is 9-8. So you've already taken care of business that way. Maybe you can catch Minnesota. You're not catching Philly, but maybe you can get the 2 seed. We'll see. But it's for the defense, though. Just keep doing what you're doing. There's no really key to the game, right? Just this defense has been so good. I mean, they've been shutting. There were. I think there was a stat saying that they're one of the only defenses in the NFL history to have multiple shutouts in multiple halves, like the streak that's been going on this year. They shut
Yeah.
teams out for an
Yeah.
entire half, multiple times. I think every point on this win streak. I think except for the Dolphins game, that all
Yeah.
5 of the games they shut out whether the first or the
Good team.
second half.
Yep.
And it's
Yeah.
just it's been a world class defense. D'Amico, unfortunately, he's not going to be here. Not going to be here much longer, but enjoy him while we have him. But yeah, there's no other key than that. Just run the ball, get out of there with a win, and then you don't, if guys are banged up in the back end of the stretch here, you don't have to play them. You really don't have to force guys out there. Maybe Brock Purdy's oblique gets worse, and you're not pressured to play him against the Commanders. It doesn't really matter. It's unfortunate. Maybe you could catch Minnesota, but it makes you make long-term decisions instead of just thinking in the short term and then walking into the playoffs banged up. I think that's the biggest key for the 49ers is to have a little bit of foresight, after if they get this win and make sure they get this roster as healthy as they possibly can going into the playoffs, because as much as we all love Brock Purdy and we love what he's doing, let's all have a dose of reality. If the 49ers want to make a playoff run, they need Debo healthy, McCaffrey, Ayuk, Kittle, Trent Williams, Jordan Mason. They need these guys healthy. That's just a fact. Those guys all go down, it's all over. So,
real quick, over I want to preview the Seahawks defense and just see what they're working with, right? Remind ourselves who they got. I've heard about this rookie and I've seen him. Not only have I heard about him, but Tariq Woolen. This guy's been making a bunch of plays. He's got a ton of interceptions, Johnny.
Oh yeah, Tariq Woolen is a legit starting corner in this league. He was I think he played at UTSA too, or he played. Click on him real quick. I forget where he played, but he played at a D2 school. He might have been
UTSA.
He was Burford's he was Burford's teammate. He was a guy who people really liked in the draft. He got the Richard Sherman comps because he's 6'4", he's lengthy, he plays press. He's actually way better athlete than Sherman ever was too. And he's been one of the best rookie corners. I mean, he would be the defensive rookie of the year if it was not for Sauce Gardner just literally turning into Darrelle Revis 2.0. Tariq Woolen is a player, and Diggs, I know he's having a bit of a rough year, but he's good. Ryan Neal subbed in well for Jamal Adams. Mm-hmm. He's been a pretty solid player. He's a young guy. I think he's his second year in the league. The pass rush is okay.
I think this is their best edge rusher right here.
I actually wanted the Niners. I actually wanted the Niners to maybe sign him in the offseason. I thought he could have been a nice compliment. But because Ebicom, being gone in the future, he might have gotten cut. I wasn't quite sure. Nwosu was a little bit cheaper.
This guy's just a tackle monster.
Yeah,
he gets the tackle numbers.
Mm-hmm.
He's last year. I think
he's pretty good in coverage. He's pretty good in coverage, Jordan Brooks. He had a really good season last year. He's having a pretty damn good season this year. Cody Barton, he's a pretty athletic linebacker, all things considered. Yeah, I think Kobe Bryant's playing the slot now for them. I think he's a starter in there. So they got, 3 rookies in the secondary right now. And, for all things considered, for what Seattle was supposed to be going into this year, I mean, it's been nothing but success. And that starts with Pete Carroll. He's still a really good coach. You catch him on the wrong – if you're not showing up ready to go, Pete Carroll's going to beat you. He's one of the top, maybe not top 10 anymore, but he's still a top 12 coach in the NFL.
Yo, Johnny, sidebar, off topic. Niners have been banged up at D tackle, right? We've, Kevin Givens went down. Luckily, Armstead came back, and we lost. Who went out with the bicep? Another one of our big boys, Ridgeway, right? Yeah. So Sheldon Richardson, he's a vet. He's a free agent. Yes or no? Would you kick the tires on him?
No. He's kind of a clown. He's had a lot of off the field stuff. He was when the Niners signed Robert Nkemdiche, I wasn't a big fan of that either because he's had a lot of he's had way worse than Sheldon Richardson. But from one of the knocks on Richardson is the locker room, and I just think right now you don't bring in bring in anybody.
Say no more. No more.
You don't bring in anyone who can mess with that. It's not bad. They've been working out players. Hopefully they can. Givens isn't out too long. I think they said a couple weeks on Givens. Ridgeway, I think, is questionable, but probably going to be moved to doubtful. So they're going to be a little thin at D tackle going into this game. And Seattle's offensive line's solid. Charles Cross is one of the top. I think an up and coming tackle in the league.
That's their premier. That's their first round pick.
Yeah, it is. Well, one of them. They had 2, right?
I couldn't tell you. I just know they drafted Charles Cross in the first round, and that he was highly regarded. I mean, they traded all those picks. They had multiple first rounders. They traded a bunch of picks for Jamal Adams.
Yeah, but they traded. Oh, that's right. They didn't have their first this year. They had Denver's first.
Yeah,
that's what it was. And then not going into next year.
They're still paying the piper on Jamal Adams.
Yeah, there's a reason why you don't give up a lot for safeties, especially ones who aren't cover guys. Um,
Yeah.
if they put him at linebacker, I think I'd have less of a, I think he'd be playing a lot better. But he lost, and unfortunately, he tore his Achilles this year, so he's been out for the year.
Yeah.
But if you look at Seattle, if you're like a fan, like what do you think? It just the Niners is just a significantly better team. You got to come in and handle your business. And through this win streak, the 49ers have shown nothing but that. They've
Marquise
been
Goodwin revenge game.
I
Marquise
hope not.
Goodwin revenge game.
No, I think if there was a receiver who was going to have a good day against the Niners, it's Tyler Lockett. The Niners do tend to struggle more against guys who are good speed in the intermediate part of the field. I think Charvarius Ward's going to do a pretty solid job on Metcalf. He'll have his numbers, but he won't do anything too impactful. And then the pass rush take over this game. Don't let Geno Smith be comfortable. Abraham Lucas has been a good pick for them as well. Both their tackles are rookies.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's been pretty solid, But Nick Bosa and Ebicom and Drake Jackson, come in and do your job. Just literally, be great on pass rush, and everything else will kind of just fall into place. So I'm not too worried about this game because the Niners just manhandled this division so far. I mean, it's going to Seattle. Weird things happen. The Seahawks always play us harder and better when we're up there. But I'm expecting the 49ers to win by at least 10 points. It could be closer. I don't think so. I think it's something like 23-10 is the final score there.
Johnny says 23-10. I'm going to give the Seahawks. I'm going to give them 17. I'm going to be generous. I'll give them 17. They're at home. 24-17 49ers.
All right.
That's my prediction.
Because I don't see the Niners throwing the ball a whole lot, so I don't think they're going to be. I think they're going to be in the low end of on the 20s in scoring. I think there's going to be a very healthy rush attack just to kind of make try and keep as many hits off Brock as possible. Unless the oblique's fine. If the oblique's fine, then run the offense. But really feel like this could be kind of one of those low scoring blowouts the 49ers have mastered over the last few weeks.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that. This defense has been outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
Before I let you go, if Josh Johnson does have to play this game, because I'm still a bit uncertain. I know you're optimistic, and it sounds like, that's because of the things you heard today from the team. But I don't know. If there's a chance we get to see Josh Johnson, first off, what do you think about Josh Johnson? And do you expect the 49ers to win this game?
I don't know if people remember, but Josh Johnson came in relief against the Colts last year with the Jets, and he lit it up. Like, he had a phenomenal game. I know some of it was in garbage time, but the Jets actually cut the score to they were down a lot, and Josh Johnson cut the score down to a 1-score game. And then Jonathan Taylor then just had a knockout long touchdown run to seal it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you never know. He's a professional quarterback. He's been here before. He knows the offense, so it wouldn't be too much, I think, of a step down. I think the one thing with Josh Johnson, too, is you can get the zone read going maybe a little bit. Maybe you don't want to run it too much because if Josh Johnson gets hurt, then Kyle Juszczyk is playing quarterback, and that's the last thing anybody wants. But I think it gives.
You'd be surprised. There's probably someone out there that's like, I want to see Juice at QB. There's somebody.
His wife and his dog, maybe. But other than that, I don't think there's too many more people than that. But no, if it's Josh Johnson, I would say something like 13 to 3 because the 49ers defense would play like their hair is on fire even more so than they play already. He came in, had a really good game, a couple good games last year for the Jets. I would expect him to play well. The Niners brought him in last year just in case it's an emergency third string quarterback as well when Jimmy got hurt. He was on the team last year. I think I don't think it would be a disaster. I think he'd come in.
I think that was in training camp last year. It was the year before that.
No, yeah, he was on the team for a bit this year, and then they cut him because he was on the practice squad this last coming year. At the end of the season, he was on the practice squad.
Gotcha.
And him and they brought him in
Josh
late.
Johnson.
I do too.
Like Josh Johnson. I thought actually right after Jimmy went down, I'm in my buddy's group chat, and it's like, well, who can we go after? And they're saying, go Cam Newton or go hit up Drew Brees. And I was like, what about Josh Johnson? He's rotting away on the Broncos because it was when Russ went down, it was Brett Rippon who got a shot in Denver. So I was like,
Yeah.
why not go get Josh Johnson? So I think if Josh Johnson does have to play this game, I still think the 49ers are going to win and they're going to get it done.
Yeah.
Johnny, we hit that hour mark. I want to thank you for coming on. Any last thoughts? Anything you want to share or plug? Now's the time.
I'm not going to plug anything. But no, I think just Niner fans be happy. Niners should wrap up the season, maybe at the 12 win range, maybe 13. I don't think that's crazy. To get a win the division, and then see where your seeding is. Really hope Minnesota loses a few more to make it a little easier on us. And the last week of the season, they can just rest all the important guys and turn it into a mini bye week for the team. But yeah, I think overall the team, it's setting up well for the Niners to at least get into the playoffs and win a game, maybe even two. After that, though, we'll see. But I think this is good. This is going to be an interesting end of the season. I think a lot of fans our interest has perked back up just because of Purdy and how good this team is, and maybe they can make some magic happen. But it's a long way from there. We'll see.
No doubt. Johnny, thanks for coming by and sharing your thoughts. You absolutely killed it. And Tommy says Tommy is greater than baller. Here's what I said.
Hell no, to the no, no, no. Yeah, to the no.
That being said, that's going to wrap it up for us, fellas. You guys have a good night. Enjoy this Thursday night game. 49ers, get this dub.